Good example, Keystone Pipeline. Good example, 40-hour work week, repealing the medical device tax, voting on the individual mandate in Obamacare, the kinds of things that we know the American people don't like and would like to see us address.
New Senate Majority Leader Mitch McConnell laying out his agenda for the opening weeks of the Republican-controlled Senate. And we're back now with the panel. So, Laura, you heard McConnell's initial plans there. Is he drawing the right balance between compromise and confrontation?
Interesting poll came out. I think Pat Caddell, our friend, did yesterday, the day before. 64% of Republicans think Boehner doesn't do enough to oppose Obama, which is contrary to what the media meme is, that you have to work with Obama, you have to show that you can work together. I don't think it's all that smart for Republicans to fall into that. I think they have to have a pathway for progress, pathway to prosperity. I think he ticked off a couple of great agenda items. But people around the country watching today, I don't think they're obsessed with, can Republicans work with Obama? They're obsessed with what they see as a country in decline. We have some economic progress, that's great, but the middle class is still stuck. They want to feel like Republicans are fighting for them. And that means oppose the president meaningfully, not just with these silly so-called border security bills on immigration, on the issue of enforcement, on Obamacare, real repeal and replace, not just in words, but we want to see real actions. But the idea of you have to work with Obama, yeah, when it works for the Republican Party and the middle class, yes, but as an approach, I think they should get rid of the process concern and focus on the policy.
Neera, there's another aspect to all this, which is how aggressive do you think President Obama will be in continuing to go off on his own with these executive actions? For instance, would he dare, and the administration is not ruling it out, would he dare to close Guantanamo on his own? And if he does continue on that path, does he risk the opportunity to have compromises between the Republican Congress and the Democratic White House?
I don't know what he's going to do on Guantanamo. It's been an issue that we've been talking about for a long time. He has actually had that position for a long time, got reelected. So, I think the president wants to work.
He have the position that he could do it on his own without Congress.
Yeah, so I think the president, should want to work with Congress on things that they can work together on. I don't think this election means he should ignore everything that he was elected on just a few years ago. But I think that there should be areas where you can find meaningful, where they can sit together and get some decisions done. I think the issue here is, on immigration, on infrastructure, there are areas where the Republican Party in the past has had a position very close to Obama. Perhaps they could come back together on some of those issues. Comprehensive immigration reform, infrastructure investments.
Well, part of the Republican Party was for comprehensive immigration reform. There's always been a lot of the Republican Party that's been against it.
That's fair, but we did get a lot of Republicans who are in the Senate now vote for a bill just a few years ago.
And it died in the House.
Yes. But now we're in an era of bipartisan feeling, so I'm hoping that those same leaders...
Does that mean that the president is going to go over to the Republican side?
We could see what we could get together. But it can't just be that one side gives. Republicans just ask for things and the president takes. This should be takes the deal that they offer.
What it means is nothing substantial is going to happen. We all agree that the country's really hurting, but we all say around this table, but we have to fight for what we believe in. Well, most American public doesn't want the fight. They want the progress. And I can guarantee you what's going to happen is the best the president's going to get out of his agenda is through executive action, and the best that the Republicans are going to get out of their agenda is from the courts. Well, that shows you how dysfunctional we are, that we're turning to the courts and executive action instead of having the two branches that are supposed to be solving big problems working together.
The big court case on Obamacare that might...
That's the only chance Republicans have of really changing Obamacare is through the courts.
Wait a minute, Ron. I mean, you've heard Republicans, you've heard Mitch McConnell talk about tax reform, about giving the president trade authority, some deal on infrastructure. You're saying none of that's going to happen?
He's saying it. I've heard a lot of great things from the president and from Boehner and from McConnell, and none of it ever happens. Words are really cheap in this town. I've seen no indication that either one of these parties or any of the leaders in these parties have the ability or the will to work together and solve big problems. If I'm wrong, I'd love to be wrong. I would love to write that comment at the end of this year. Look, these guys solve some big problems.
Dana?
I'm sitting here thinking, am I living in an alternative universe?
Well, you do live in New York, so yes.
You had two new members on right before our panel. They've got energy, they have enthusiasm, they were elected with a lot of goals in mind. You also have the fact that a lot of divisions within the Democrats. So on two of those things that Mitch McConnell just said he wants to put forward, Keystone and on infrastructure, you could get bipartisan majorities on those. for the first time in several years, President Obama will finally have to actually make decisions because Harry Reid has been his virtual veto pen for so many of the Congresses. You think of all the bills that the House passed on jobs, 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 relentless on jobs. Those will come over to the Senate. They will pass the Senate, and then the president will have to decide, am I going to do this or
When you
not?
say
have a
they'll
great
pass
fight.
the Senate, you've still got the question of the filibuster. You're going to get 60 votes in the Senate?
On
You've
some,
only got
on
54
some of those
Republicans.
things, I think that they will, but also you'll have to watch for the President Obama has a new legislative affairs team in place to work with the Congress. I think that they will start to make some decisions of, you can get things done in the last 2 years with a divided government. Things didn't fall apart, but here's a difference. When President Bush lost majorities going into 07 and 08, no one in the media said, oh, well, now the Democrats come to work with President Bush. No, it was, can President Bush go and work with the Democrats? So a lot of it is a media play.
And you're making my point. You're right. We're going to have a great fight. Let's take energy reform, for example. We really need a comprehensive energy policy in this country. Everybody would agree with that, right? What are we fighting over? Keystone, which is not going to be the environmental catastrophe that the liberals will tell you, and it's not the big job producer that conservatives tell you. It's a red herring.
Yeah, one of the most interesting things I think happening is that in defeat, Obama looks like he's setting the agenda. I mean, his poll numbers are up. He has a bounce in his step. I mean, some of this is, you know, he's puffing up his chest, his core. Of course it is. But he is rising in the polls as he comes off this near historic defeat across the board.
So what should the Republicans do?
The Republicans shouldn't fall into the media trap of, you have to work with Obama, you have to work with Obama. Obama is going off on his own. He's going to sign executive order. He's going to close Gitmo. He's draining Gitmo down, has 127 detainees today. He's going to keep proceeding apace. Republicans have been successful, and the economy has been improving with two things: gridlock and opposing Obama. The economy has been getting better.
Is gridlock
slightly.
a policy?
Gridlock in certain cases. You'll see movement on trade, frankly, which I oppose, and other things.
Let me let Neera in here.
Look, I would disagree with Laura. I don't think gridlock is the solution to all of our problems. The country is still ailing on the economy in the sense that we need to get wages up for everyone. We have good economic growth numbers. I would say on Obama, he's up in the polls because he's doing things that are popular. The last couple of years, we've had stagnation in Congress.
Would you agree that he lost and the Democrats lost the November election?
Yes, I would
And
totally
what do you think
agree.
the message was from the voters?
I think the message was doing nothing is a failure. And so doing
why
nothing over the
why
last
did they
2 years,
reward the Republicans?
doing nothing over the last 2 years was a failure for Democrats. But I agree with Laura. He is rising in the polls. He's at a 1-2 year high in the polls now because people are responding to good economic news and the fact that the president is taking action on issues that are important to the country.
You know, let me just say something to you, Ron, because you're the really negative person on this, although I must say, as I hear this conversation, I'm beginning to agree with you. I mean, look at Bill Clinton and Newt Gingrich. You had divided government there, and they were able, some would say the President Clinton was kind of forced, to go and agree to things like welfare reform. Can we get that kind of agreement here?
We should. There's plenty of incentive for it, but I don't see any evidence that either side is capable of it. Gingrich and Clinton were able to find ways to get win-wins. They both lost a little bit, but they both won a little bit politically, and the country won.
All right. I'm going to take the hopeful note on this. I'm going to be with Dana. Thank you, panel. See you next Sunday.